So in this video, we'll be discussing about different study designs. Whenever any research is planned, one of the important aspects for planning the research is about the study designs. Now, what is the classification or what are the different types of basic study designs? So in this video, we'll be discussing the basic study designs. The first question before the study is planned, the researcher would have some question in the mind, and to answer that question, the researcher is planning some study. Now, when you plan a study and you want to select one particular design, the first question that need to be asked by the researcher is that what is the objective of the study. So based on the objective of the study, you will get one answer out of these two. So the first question that you are asking is what is the objective of the study. So based on this, the study could be descriptive in nature, or the study could be analytical in nature. Now, as the name suggests, descriptive study, that means the objective of the researcher is to describe certain phenomena. So incidence type of studies, to find out the prevalence, these are kind of descriptive studies. So the descriptive studies they could be cross-sectional, survey type of studies, they could be qualitative studies, so qualitative studies like for example focus group discussions or the interviews, so these are the descriptive studies. So whenever the objective is to describe something, the phenomena, the studies are descriptive in nature. When the objective of researcher is to do analytical kind of study, that means some kind of analysis, that analytical studies, they are of further two types. So whenever the answer is analytical, the second question the researcher need to ask, is the study experimental in nature? Or is it observational in nature? So this is the second question. What is the pattern of this, or what is the plan of this analytical study? Is it experimental or is it observational? When the answer is experimental, that means the researcher is doing some intervention. That intervention can be in the form of physiotherapy, can be in the form of pharmacotherapy, can be in terms of some intervention is being done, and that's an experimental because the researcher is planning the experiment, and that's why it's called as the experimental study. The experimental studies can be randomized studies, they could be non-randomized, that means before the intervention is done, the groups are randomized. One group will receive X treatment, the other group will receive Y treatment, and that would be based on the randomization. The randomized studies, they could be parallel studies, parallel group studies, that means the groups, experimental groups, group A, group B, they will receive the treatment and the study will go parallelly. So RCTs, these are called as randomized controlled trials. So randomized controlled trials can be parallel or they could be crossover. What is meaning of crossover? So you will give a treatment to one arm. Suppose A group is receiving one treatment and B group is receiving another treatment. After certain time, based on this study, they will be crossed over. So the first group will receive the treatment which the second group received first time, and the second group will receive the treatment which first group received the treatment. That means they are crossing over, and that is what is called as the randomized crossover trial. So this is about the experimental study. The observational studies, they can be, number one, they could be cohort studies. Number 2, they could be case control studies. And lastly, they could also be cross-sectional studies. Remember, we had cross-sectional studies here, but they were descriptive in nature. These cross-sectional studies are analytical in nature. These are analytical in nature. Now, what is meaning of cohort study and what is meaning of a case control study? So, when the objective of the study or outcome of the study, when that outcome is going to be analyzed, based on that, they could be cohort, they could be case control, or they could be cross-sectional. So when you're observing the outcome at the baseline or that same time, then it would be called as the cross-sectional analytical study, because outcome is analyzed at the same time, cross-sectional. When the outcome is analyzed after some time, then that is called as the cohort study. So cohort is nothing but the group of participants or group of people or group of the subjects having similar characteristics. So you will be observing them and the outcome will be seen at some point of time. That is what is the cohort. Case control studies, they are retrospective in nature, because the outcome has already happened and you're going back and to see what was the exposure and what was the risk factor. So that is what is called as the case control study. So case control studies are retrospective. Cohort studies, you will follow them and you will observe the outcome. Cross-sectional study, outcomes will be analyzed at the same time. So that is how the basic study designs are classified into. Just to revise, the first question that need to be asked is the whether the study is descriptive or whether it is analytical. Once you get the answer that it is descriptive, it could be cross-sectional survey type of study. It could be qualitative studies like interviews, or it could be focus group discussion. Case studies, case reports, case series, they come under descriptive. When you're planning an analytical study, it could be experimental or it could be observational. Now in the experimental, the studies could be randomized or maybe non-randomized. Randomized studies can be parallel, they could be crossover. Observational studies is, there could be 3 different types of studies: cohort study, case control study, and the cross-sectional study. So these are the 3 questions that need to be answered before you plan your study design. So that is about the overall basic types of study designs. Thank you.